All right.
So make sure you're standing on the stand on me.
Yes, stand on.
If you trust
All right, so let's give it up for DhrithiV, Deepa, Leo, and Val.
I'll introduce ourselves. Hi, my name's Deepa.
I'm Leo.
I'm Val. And I'm DhrithiV. And this is our prop.
Oh, wait. So we are graphic novelists, and you guys are the Clover Publishing House. Our book is called Silveron, a post-apocalyptic graphic novel portraying Earth 150 years into the future, where the plants have mutated, overgrown, and are now toxic and relatively harmful to humans. As the upper castes evacuate to Mars to rebuild civilization, 4 lower caste young adults work together to call attention to their deteriorating planet.
So first off, we're going over the setting, Earth. So Earth is doing absolutely horrible now, overgrown with lots of toxic plants, lots of natural disasters, earthquakes, floods, everything. So when a lot of people were like, hey, why don't we just move to Mars? This is way in the future. Mars is actually habitable. But the thing is, Mars is a lot smaller than Earth, has less resources and stuff. So how do you choose who gets to go, who doesn't? So Earth is divided, or I guess people in general are divided into ancestry-based castes that we base off the caste system in India. So basically, it's not necessarily based on wealth, it's based on what your ancestors' jobs were. And the higher caste people, they got to go to Mars, but the people on Earth are all lower castes who are unable to. And our antagonists, the Smiles Corporation, are like a private military force that basically keeps them on Earth. Yeah.
Their characters.
Okay, so Amal and Miss Smiley. Amal is our main protagonist. She's a 20-year-old secretary for a big tech company, despite being from the lower class, which means she had to work her way up a lot to get there, which gives her a lot of fame and connections, which she uses to achieve her goal of reconnecting the 2 planets. And then Miss Smiley is the main antagonist, which is the leader of Smiles Corp, which Deepa said before is kind of like the law enforcement of Mars, and they work to keep the people on Earth there. Oh, and she's the leader of an army of clones, which is Smiles Corp. It's like a hive mind.
So these 3 characters are Ren, Sam, and Koa. Ren is she holds the group together, basically. She's very grounded, and she mostly helps Amal with the planning and stuff. Koa is at the very bottom of the caste system, and he's kind of impulsive and also a hothead, and Sam is I kind of had a difficult time incorporating her into the story because she's supposed to be a ghost. She died she's of the upper caste, and she died the night before she was supposed to leave. And I did a little research on ghosts and paranormal stuff. And sometimes ghosts don't realize that they're dead, so I made Sam not realize that she's dead. But once she figures that out, all she really wants to do is find her family that left her and just see them again. That's all she wants, really.
Okay, and then this is Mars, which Deepa talked about a little, where all of the higher class evacuated to, and due to being smaller and having less resources, only the higher class could go there, leaving the lower class back on Earth. And they're also very oblivious to everything that's happening on Earth right now, all the toxic plants and everything that's happening to Earth.
Okay, so Act 1, our story starts with Ren and Amal on a cargo airship that's meant to take off and go to Mars, and their plan is to kind of stow away on it and escape to Mars to avoid the poor conditions on Earth. But before they can do that, they get nearly caught by Smiles court guards, and they have a bit of a fight, and Amal kind of sprays them with plant juice and stuff like that, and they have to escape. And then they return to Ren's bar where they try to replan what they're gonna do. And while they're there, a lot of the plants kind of start breaking or invading into the bar and destroying things, and that kind of makes them realize that the conditions are only going to worsen from here. But the plants also kind of remind Ren of a news story she saw of a young man who was pricked by a thorn from one of the plants and now claims that he's able to see ghosts. And she also explains how a lot of people the doctors are kind of trying to claim that he's faking it, and no one really wants to believe him because of his caste, because he's of the lowest caste. And to Amal, he kind of represents the suffering that would still be on Earth even if they were to leave and go to Mars. So she and Ren go to find the boy and question him about the ghosts and the plant. And even though he's initially kind of suspicious of them, they manage to get him to open up and talk about it. And he kind of talks about how even if they were to go to Mars, nothing would change. Smiles Corp would still discriminate against them because of their caste. The issue isn't necessarily just being on Earth or Mars. They always be discriminated against regardless of where they are. And then he kind of explains how the ghost, Sam, who he knows about a Smiles Corp base nearby that they could go to gain information about the oppression on Earth, and they could potentially send to Mars. So the three of them visit the base and they infiltrate the location, and they disguise themselves as some of the guards, and they gather some of the information that they're able to and send that off to Mars.
And so you think it's gonna go well, but it in fact does not, because no one on Mars actually believes this. They're like, oh, this is just some hoax some scanner put to bring down our government. Because like we said earlier, completely oblivious to what's going on Earth. They didn't realize that it's how bad it is, because they are kind of their media is filtered, for lack of a better word. And so our main characters are what do we do now? Well, they are under suspicion. It's kind of more dangerous to be on Earth. So they decided to go with their original plan of going to Mars, but instead of just going to Mars just to escape, now there's actually a reason. They can try changing something there. They can talk to higher ups. And especially Sam is completely down for this plan, because then maybe because going to Mars was kind of what she was supposed to do all along when she was human. And Koa, not human, but alive. And so Koa is the most apprehensive towards the plan, because he's you're just going into their grasp basically. but he does reluctantly agree. And instead of last time where they try to be stowaways, they knocked out some guards with one of the plans. It's called Midnight Rose, and it's basically like it makes you tired. And they pretend to be guards, and they board the ship, get to Mars, and that is when the trouble starts. Because when they're actually at Mars, they're very, how do I put this? They get scared. It's more like, what am I doing now? It's big, it's new, it's different. And Amal and Koa especially come to an argument. Amal thinks that the best way to do things is try finding someone from a high caste, with a lot of connections, who can help spread their story, be like a reputable claim that, hey, what's going on really is going on. But Koa is like, no, we can't trust them. What we should do instead is like try ambushing like a big event or something and like making a commotion, and then people will have to like believe us. And their argument gets more and more tense until guards start coming and go, all right, I don't know what's going on, but you guys seem like hooligans, and get them, and they get like basically taken to prison. Thankfully, Ren is able to escape before the guards spot her too. And while at first it is very frosty between Koa and Amal, they do end up, they end up like reconciling and going, yeah, we both have valid points to make. And Act 2 ends with Sam, who followed the truck there, and thankfully no one can see her except our main characters who have pricked themselves with a flower. And she goes, okay, we have a plan to rescue you.
Final reflections. We tried to incorporate some like research from the Indian caste system, and like Deepa said, it's based more on ancestry and like jobs that people once had. So we tried to take like the jobs that the ancestors of our characters had at the time of evacuation that would determine their caste. And we kind of tried to make the division between Earth and Mars like a really exaggerated form of redlining, like a little bit.
One thing that makes this project really important is that, well, I feel like it has a more reasonable, like, solution to the problem. It's not like our characters gain magic powers and defeat everyone and take it over. It's more like, hey, we have to appeal to the masses because the government is evil, so we have to get the masses at least to try changing the government's mind.
I think the most memorable part of making the story was a video call that we had over the weekend. I think that really helped develop our story more, even if it was just like a few small notes. But yeah.
Why is the title called Solo One?
Oh, it's Latin for overgrown forest, so it kind of fit the vibe
Of the trees.
Yeah.
You had a lot of significant names in this piece. So can you talk a little bit more about why you chose the names you did?
A lot of them were we had names for the individual casts that we didn't really talk about here, but they were supposed to be Latin words for different parts of a tree. So I forget the exact names, but the lower casts were kind of the roots and the trunk, and as you got higher up, they would be more important parts like the branches and the leaves.
You had characters, like Ren and Amal. So what's the reasoning behind some of those names?
I think we wanted to, because it technically takes place in New York for the portion on Earth, we kind of wanted to have a more diverse cast since New York is a pretty diverse place. Nadine.
Is this set in the future? What time period were you guys thinking of?
Way in the future.
It's 150 years.
150 years.
I really like how you have these elements that you hinted at of like, so these overgrown plants are a pressure on the people still on Earth, but your lower caste characters have learned to like use these plants to their advantage, like plant juices and stuff. I couldn't figure out if there was one character that had that expertise or if there was just they all sort of know how to use the plants to their advantage.
Yeah. So the plants, like, yeah, they've kind of just learned to adapt and like work with them. So it's not just like one character. It just depends on, but you also kind of need knowledge to know what plants like do what, because some of them are really toxic, and if you like consume like their sap or get pricked by the thorn, you could like be brain dead. Or like Koa is like somehow has the ability to see ghosts, but other ones can be used for like medicine or like weapons.
Where do the ghosts come from?
They just exist now. You can see them. They always existed.
Do they, like, other than the one ghost, does the presence of ghosts make like any major effect on the culture?
I don't think so.
No, because it's a very new discovery, right? Because like everyone thinks Koa's crazy. She's the only one who discovered it.
And then Kaisa.
Wait, what was I gonna ask? No, it was like at my tongue. Wait. It was something about I think I missed it, but what was your medium?
Oh, it was graphic novel. So you guys are our publishers.
Oh, I had the same question. About the background picture, did you guys draw that? or-
Leo drew
Yeah,
it.
Wow.
Leo's so awesome.
So I found a picture of Queens and I just traced it and added more plants and stuff.
I'm curious about where your inspiration came from, or like in the brainstorming process, because you've got space travel, advanced technology, you have like apocalypse plants, you've got ghosts in there, and you've got like political tie-ins with a caste system. I'm curious like where all those ideas came from.
Let's just say it was a lot weirder before. We toned it down.
All those elements are present in Parable of Summer.
Well, not ghosts though. Not ghosts.
Well, what about if you think figuratively, the absence of characters who never return?
Tragic deaths.
This reminds me a lot of a post-apocalypse story idea I had a few days ago with like overgrown plants. But I was wondering if there's like any specific message, like political message you're going for, because especially with like the caste system, and then like the rich people get to go to Mars. I was wondering like what's the focus?
Well, I think it is based off how like privileged people like they don't really see like with the full extent of what's going on. But and the governments purposely do that. But I think if they did start to see, it would like help in some way.
We were also kind of, I don't know if we went into this a lot, like in our presentation, but we were also kind of trying to talk a little bit about how some people might be trapped in an echo chamber, like the people on Mars are kind of in an echo chamber where they're kind of ignorant to the issues on Earth. So it's kind of like, I don't know if this is really like the message, but like their goal is to kind of like put a stop, take that echo chamber so people can see the issues on Earth and have more empathy so that funding can go like help it.